Hello and welcome to the NBA Outlet, presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me, as always, Kory Waldron. What's up, Kory?
It's a beautiful Sunday. It's a beautiful day to be alive. Excited to do another podcast with you, Nick.
Yes, sir. Ready to talk some hoops. Finally, getting a little deeper into the season, can make some observations. But how you doing fantasy football-wise, Kory?
One league, I'm 2-8, and my team name is Hot Garbage. In my other league, I'm actually like 7-3, and I'm the second best team in the league. So that league I'm good in. It's been a tale of two seasons.
Yeah, I moved on from the regular fantasy football role. Now I'm just an advisor, so it's a lot stress-free.
Just an advisor.
I'm just an advisor out here, so you need any advice, hit me up. I still watch the NFL. I just don't have to deal with the pressure of fantasy football. But back to the NBA. What we're going to do today, we're going to talk about under-the-radar guys. This could be guys just having big seasons that aren't getting talked about enough, or it could be that role, that glue guy that's on every team that doesn't get enough love. But before we get started, as always, check us out on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, Google Play, Dash Radio, and YouTube. But to start it off, we're going to go with the Atlantic Division, Boston Celtics. Who on this team doesn't catch enough love, even though, it feels like everybody on the Celtics does?
Honestly, so far this season is probably Marcus Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Off the bench, he's playing 25 minutes per game. He's averaging 13, 6, and 1, shooting 48% from the field, 45% from three. He's actually the best three-point shooter on this Celtics team so far this season. I mean, obviously, this team chucks up 43s a game, it feels like, every night. But he's been really impressive for them. And he's been a big offensive punch for them off the bench. He's their third leading scorer.
Yeah, he was the one guy while everyone was struggling that was still hitting his shots. He's also hit a lot of clutch shots. I remember that big shot he hit against Phoenix to push it to overtime. So Marcus Morris, always a guy. And this goes without saying, Marcus Smart kind of is the poster boy for what we're talking about today. He doesn't necessarily have the stats, but he brings the hustle, he brings the energy, brings the passion, brings the defense, brings the toughness, the versatility, everything you're looking for a guy to come off the bench, and he can fill in so many different roles. So Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, both great role guys for the Boston Celtics. Moving on to Toronto, who you got for them?
Now for me, this one is Pascal. I wanted to say Pascal Siakam, but is he too known at this point, Nick?
Yeah, he's catching a lot of love. He's catching major love, and he deserves it all. He's been amazing.
Right. So for me, then, if I can't pick Siakam, I have to go with a guy who's still playing a decent amount of minutes off the bench, and that's one of the glue guys, and that's for me Fred VanVleet. Obviously, the shooting numbers haven't been great, but he still plays 23 minutes per game. He's averaging 9 and 4, and it just feels like the tempo when he's out there is just different. He's just a really good backup point guard, even though the numbers show that he's struggling offensively.
Yeah, he was a guy in the offseason I was surprised that didn't get an offer for one of these teams without a point guard. And like you said, he brings some good energy off the bench. He's dealt with injuries a little bit early this season, so when he gets 100%. But talking about another guy off the bench for Toronto, Jonas Valanciunas, I felt like he's done a great job adjusting to that role. In only less than 20 minutes, he's averaging 12 and 7. He improved his three ball. He just kind of understands who he is in the NBA now. And he's, continued to improve too. It's not like he's getting worse.
No, he's definitely not getting worse. And that was a great move by Nick Nurse to move him to the bench to start the season, because obviously he's been a starter for the last several years.
Yeah, it's just a great fit. Everything's kind of worked out. On to the New York Knicks. Who are you rolling with?
It's got to be, for me, Mitchell Robinson, the rookie. He's been really impressive in limited minutes. He's playing 18 minutes per game so far. He started in 11 of those 14. He's averaging 5 and 4. He's just a really good hustle guy, very raw still. But I think he could be a big part of this Knicks rotation going forward.
Yeah, he's shown off some great rim protection skills. I believe against Orlando last weekend, in 22 minutes, he had 9 blocks. So he has some major athleticism. He's one guy in the league that I've seen block threes on numerous occasions too. So that's always good. Going with another Knicks big, Noah Vonleh. Very happy for him, kind of proving this year he's an NBA player. Obviously he started some games for the Knicks, doesn't mean a ton, but he's shown the energy, the effort, the toughness, and kind of adjusting to the NBA and taking advantage of his athleticism.
Yeah, we said going into the year in the preview series that we had said that if Vonleh didn't get it figured out this year, he might be out of the league soon, and he's figured it out.
Yeah, and good for him, and it's a good opportunity for him and the Knicks, and maybe moving forward, that's a nice bench piece. He looks like a guy you wouldn't mind coming off the bench, giving you that nice energy, at a small ball 5 or even a little bit of power forward. But in Philly, role guy, who are you going with?
For me, it's again another rookie. It's Landry Shamet. Pete told us on the preview series that to watch out for this kid and definitely watch out for this kid. They've needed perimeter shooting, and he's been that pop for them off the bench. He's playing around 20 minutes per game. He's shooting 38% from the field, but 34% from three, 7.2 points per game. He's been really impressive, and if they're going to have any success without adding another piece, which I think they will, Shamit's going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Landry as well. And like you said, shooting numbers aren't great. He started the first 3 games of the season pretty cold. Now he's starting to adjust, get a little bit more comfortable. And now adding another piece like Jimmy Butler should only get him more open shots. And also, like you mentioned, if they don't bring in a shooter, which they likely will, he still gives them a nice piece to have. And he has a little bit more skill set than just a shooter too. So nice draft pick for the Sixers. Onto my Brooklyn Nets. Who you rolling with?
All right. No, I have a question first. So does Joe Harris, he gets too much love now or no?
I don't think he gets enough love. So I had Joe Harris down. I had another guy down. So you go with Joe Harris.
All right. I'm going with Joe Harris. 29 minutes per game. He's averaging 13 and a half points per game, and he's shooting a ridiculous 52% from the field and 50% from three. I know Jack Manuel is going to be very excited that I picked his boy Joe Harris. He does everything. He's just a perfect kind of complement piece to this Nets team. And he's been getting better and better. One of the guys I think the Cavs probably wish they held on to.
Yeah, he would have been great for the Cavs last year, even in the playoffs. But like you said, he's a perfect role guy. He does everything you want. He's an elite three-point shooter. He's been bouncing around from 1 to 3 in terms of three-point percentage this year. And then also he can drive to the rim, make his layups. He understands his game. He doesn't try to do too much. He can make solid passes. He's not an elite defender, but he puts an effort on that end of the floor. I think he's also a guy you could pretty much plug in with any team in the league, and he's not going to have a problem fitting in. But for me, another guy, Ed Davis. Ed Davis is probably one of the best backup centers in the league. Great energy, great defense, a monster on the boards, just gives the Nets that toughness that they need. And you always know what you're getting with Ed Davis on a regular basis. So I've been really happy having him in Brooklyn. On to the Central Division, we got the Detroit Pistons, Kory's favorite team.
Yeah, certainly one of my top 5 favorite teams. For them, a guy who's impressed, and I mean, his numbers aren't flashy, but for me, it's Ish Smith. And maybe it's, he's 30 years old. He's been a backup point guard for feels like forever at this point, but he's just a crucial part of that off the bench unit. There's at times where he closes games for the Detroit Pistons. His stats aren't flash, 42% from the field, 32% from three. I think he's averaging 9.8 points per game. But he's just huge for that second unit. And sometimes Reggie Jackson gets kind of into like more of an offensive scoring mode, and Ish Smith is kind of like that playmaker off the bench. And then honorable mention, I think Reggie Bullock.
Yeah, that's why I went with Reggie Bullock. He's kind of struggled a little bit this year dealing with injuries himself, but without him and Kennard, you can see there's a big difference in the Pistons and how their offense can run. So I think Bullock is definitely a guy. Ish Smith, though, too, is, he's been a steady guard for them, and he pretty much kind of kept them afloat the last few years when Reggie Jackson was banged up. On to your Pacers, though. Who's the guy that sticks out?
The Pacers, it's kind of tough because for me, really, not a lot of the bench guys have stood up, but the one who has, for me, is Cory Joseph. He's playing 26 minutes per game. He's shooting 49% from the field, 43% from three, 6.8 points per game, 3.4 rebound, 3.4 assists, or 3.1 rebound, sorry. But he's been really good for that Pacers team. They have a lineup that they jot out. That's Cory Joseph, Tyreke Evans, Victor Oladipo, then either Thaddeus Young and Sabonis, or Thaddeus Young and Miles Turner. And it's one of their best lineups for defensively. And with Cory Joseph shooting these high splits, it's been really good offensively as well. So for me, it's Cory Joseph.
Yeah, and Cory Joseph's hit some big shots this year too.
Yes, he has.
Get some timely buckets in there. He's just a really nice guard to have come off the bench. I'm actually, excuse me, I'm actually going to go with a starter here. I'm going to go with Thad Young, even though he's been starting for almost like 10 years now. It feels like he doesn't get any love. He's just a great hustle guy, energy, plays defense, gives you some rebounding. I think Thad Young's a guy that always goes under the radar.
Yeah, and actually, it was kind of a point of emphasis earlier this season. A lot of Pacer fans were saying, like, get rid of Thaddeus Young, trade him. And of course, Thaddeus Young, like you said, there was one game against Miami Heat, one of the earlier games, and he just had like a ton of hustle plays. And then I remember tweeting out like, "And you guys wanted to trade this man," and then everyone was like, "Yeah, people, overreact on Thaddeus Young when he plays bad." But as you just mentioned, he's a great glue and hustle guy.
Yeah, because even, I've watched Thad Young in Brooklyn a little bit. Even on the nights where he doesn't shoot well, he still provides other things to your team with defense, energy, and hustle points. It's just he's willing to dive on the floor for any loose ball.
Him and Marcus Smart are very similar in that instance.
Yeah, it's just that Thad Young doesn't talk trash and he's not much of a flopper. But that's for another day. On the Cavs, who stuck out? This is kind of a hard one. Obviously, the Cavs have been arguably the worst team in the league this season.
Uh, can you go first for this one? Because I don't. For me, actually, I got it. For me, it's got to be Jordan Clarkson. Even though it's not like he's playing great, he's shooting 28% from three, 46% from the field, which is pretty good for him. Doesn't pass the ball, forget about that. But he's averaging 15.4 points per game. And he was really shaky when they got him last year. He had that big game in Boston, like the day after the trade happened from the Lakers to the Cavs. But he just never really fit in with the rotation. He's just kind of all over the place. And given some more minutes this season, he's been rather effective offensively, even though he just doesn't pass the ball.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation for Clarkson because he was in his first pressure situation last year and he couldn't kind of produce, and now he's back to a non-pressure situation and he's doing well. So it'll be interesting to see if he ever gets back on a playoff type team, what they'll do. For me, I guess this was a very tough one, and I haven't watched a ton of the Cavs, so I just did it based off of stats a little bit. Looking at Tristan Thompson's like hustle stats, he's still setting good screens, still rebounding. I think his contract's obviously disgusting, but in a backup role in another team, he would be solid. But overall, I think the Cavs, it's hard to have anyone really stick out when there's just a lot of lackluster play. On to Chicago, who you got though?
Chicago was hard because Levine and the prime guy, Parker, those guys are too known, I think. But for me, the other guys, it's another rookie for me. It shouldn't be a rookie. I mean, this team is really young, so it's got to be a rookie. For me, it's Wendell Carter Jr. He's actually already been labeled like the leader of this team or one of the leaders of this team at just 19 years old. Plays around 25 minutes per game. He's averaging 11 points per game, seven and a half rebounds. He's just been really good as a rookie. He's one of the few defensive players they have. And he's, like I mentioned, he's already becoming a leader for them in the locker room.
Yeah, I was going to go with Wendell as well, but I felt like he was maybe a little bit too known, but I think you get away with it because he's a rookie. He's arguably been their best all-around player. Obviously, Zach LaVine's really popped up scoring-wise, but Wendell's done on both ends. Very nice piece for them having Laurie and Wendell moving forward. Obviously, they're hoping if they can get another high pick this year, they might have some young pieces to really work with. I just went with, the regular guy who's always on that team, and he always does the dirty work, and that's Robin Lopez. Obviously, he's not playing big minutes because they're not trying to really make the playoffs at this point, but I think Robin would always be a good add to any kind of playoff team to have a nice big off the bench.
Definitely.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Can I please pick Brook Lopez?
You can, but I feel like he's not under the radar, especially after he just like popped off and he's been Steph Curry light in 7-foot form.
But I feel like he was under the radar up into that game, no?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like he was under the radar before he signed with the Bucks. Like no one really paid attention. They paid attention to him a little bit in LA. No one really paid attention to him in Brooklyn. Now that the Bucks are winning and he's helping them win games, I feel like he's getting the attention. But he still probably could deserve a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Brook Lopez anyways because I'm just completely shocked at how effective he's been. I mean, he's averaging 7.1 3-point attempts a game, the second highest on the team behind only Chris Middleton, who's 7.3. And obviously, as you mentioned, he had the 8.3, 8 3-pointers the other night. One of them was like 32 feet, 35 feet. Like it was a rather deep one. He's averaging 12 points per game. He's not, he doesn't rebound a lot, only 3.3 rebounds.
Box out, though. He's always one of the leaders in box outs, and it's been proven that when he's on the floor, his team rebounds well. It's just he doesn't attack the ball.
Hey, there you go. That's all you need. You need somebody who can box out the bigger guys to help the other guys get rebounds. That's fantastic. And obviously, Antetokounmpo's got that crazy wingspan, and he gets enough rebounds, I think, for both of them.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to go with Brook. I went with a little bit more under the radar guy. I thought Tony Snell is having a really nice bounce back season after we watched him in the playoffs and he really couldn't hit anything. Scared to touch the ball. I think he's shooting some really nice percentages. Also, shout out to Pat Connaughton, who's been nice for them as well. So Bud doing a great job with that team. A lot of guys have just stepped up and played into their role. And you can see even with the minutes distribution that a lot of guys are playing. So really like what the Bucks are doing, and we've talked about them a lot. On to the next division, Washington Wizards. This was actually a tough one because the Wizards are not playing very good team basketball at the moment.
Wait, Nick, you don't think the Knicks are a good basketball team? I mean, you don't think the Wizards are a good basketball team?
I think they're a talented team, but they are a 0% a team, especially after watching them Friday against the Nets. I've said this to like numerous people. They just give off like a terrible vibe. They hate each other. They hate the other team. They hate the refs. It seems like they hate their coach. Like everything just seems so negative. You hardly see any smiles on the Wizards.
Yeah, it's definitely a sticky situation going on out there, and I think we're, as we mentioned on previous pods, probably going to be some sort of change coming. It's kind of tough to figure out who's been the best low key guy. Kelly Oubre to me is too big of a name at this point. Austin Rivers has not been good. So look, I went with Jeff Green, but like we all know who Jeff Green is. He's shooting 50% from the field though, which is pretty good, obviously for him. 31% from three. He's averaging 10.6 points per game. So for me, it's been Jeff Green, who obviously is not LeBron James, even though Bradley Beal said he's LeBron James like. A lot of the guys in this roster though have seriously underperformed outside, I think, Bradley Beal.
I think one guy that probably just doesn't get enough minutes is Thomas Satoransky, and
Only
that's
12 per game. What the hell?
yeah, and that's been a talk, for the last season when Wall came back, this season now. I think either you move him and try to get another piece, or you trade, somebody else and get him more minutes because he's proven to be a good basketball player and just good things happen when he's on the floor. Obviously, this season not so much because the whole team is bad, but I like him and I think he's a guy that flies under the radar and could be a nice add to another team that needs a point guard. Talking Orlando or Phoenix or New Orleans if they want to add someone with a Peyton injury. But what about Miami?
From Josh Richardson kind of popped, so he's kind of off this, isn't he?
He's like a most improved candidate.
I had Josh Richardson down, and as I'm looking at it, there's no way. For me, the second guy I had on this list was Rodney McGruder. He's getting big minutes this year. He's playing 33 minutes per game. He's shooting 46 and 43 from the field, 12.7 points per game. A guy who, I mean, realistically, I didn't think I would ever see Rodney McGruder getting these kind of minutes. He's a late bloomer. He started playing for Miami when he was 25. Now he's 27. And he's having the best year of his career in an extended role.
Yeah, no, McGruder's been great, and he's a guy that's dramatically improved. His obviously the minutes have picked up, but his skill set has picked up too offensively. He looks a lot more confident out there from the last few years, and I think Jorge's mentioned him a lot in his weekly Heat recap. So big shout out to him and really stepping up. I think Winslow's had some nice moments too for Miami, kind of becoming more of that draft pick and coming off the bench and giving some unique skills. But what about Orlando?
For Orlando, I gotta say first off, I'm slightly impressed by how they've played this season. I didn't expect this team to be 8-8 at this point. They tend to have
Lakers last night.
Yeah, they tend to have relatively hot starts. We'll have to see how this goes. But I've been very impressed with them early. So for me, a guy who's flown under the radar and a guy I think will probably get traded this year is Terrence Ross. Slam dunk champion in the past. He was a big role player for one of the Toronto teams that was really successful and fell apart in the playoffs. He's averaging 13 points per game, 45% from the field, 40% from three. Had that big game-winning shot against the Sixers the other night in Jimmy Butler's debut with the team. Terrence Ross, to me, has been very impressive.
Yeah, the guy I'm going to go with is probably a little bit above the radar, but Nikola Vucevic, who's just been really good this year, and another guy who could possibly get traded depending on what they want to do moving forward. He's really had some great offensive games. He has that three-point shot. He can work you in the post. He does a great job of just overall working his big, whoever's defending him, and putting him in an awkward situation. So a nice season for him so far. Charlotte Hornets.
Kemba Walker, no. Yeah. Shout out to him and his 60-point game last night, even though it wasn't enough. The trade Kemba roars are getting louder and louder. And I know this isn't really an under-the-radar guy, but because of where he was in his career coming into this year, I'm going to say Tony Parker.
Yeah.
46% from the field, 33% from three, 10 points per game, 4.3 assists. They've always needed a backup point guard for Kemba Walker. They just haven't had that kind of guy that changed the tempo. They really haven't been able to give Kemba Walker a break at times. And Tony Parker, even though he's only playing 18.4 minutes per game, he's really been that guy. He can give Kemba Walker, 5 to 6 minutes to really sit down and rest while he can run the show. I've loved the addition to Tony Parker. Obviously, him and Borrego have a connection from their San Antonio days, and it just shows.
Yeah, no, Tony Parker's really been impressive. I didn't expect that, especially after what we saw in San Antonio the last few years. I went with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and another shout out to Borrego, who's done a good job of utilizing him and allowing him to play his game. He's been playing some small ball five where he can really focus on playing defense, rebounding, cutting to the rim, where he doesn't have to really worry about taking jumpers.
And he's the guy who had 7 blocks, right, in the game?
I'm not 100%. I only caught the end for Kemba highlights and the Jimmy Butler at the end when that was crazy too, but that's for another day. I think he's probably had some big block games. Atlanta.
I still don't like this team. Thank God the Pacers beat them last night. Oladipo had to come out after some
A
knee
little closer
soreness.
than you wanted, I'm sure.
What?
I said it might have been a little closer than you wanted too, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. But like, I mean, I expected it to be close the minute they took out Victor Oladipo, like 4.5 minutes into the game because he has some knee soreness. I was like, all right, this is gonna be one of those cross your fingers and hope we don't get rooked. A guy for me who's really impressed, who was almost out of the league, is Alex Len.
Yeah.
He's starting for them. He's playing 21 minutes per game, shooting 49% from the field. He's averaging 10 and 5. He's been really impressive. Another guy I think that we mentioned in the preview series, he may have been done after his time in Phoenix if he hadn't kind of rejuvenated himself. And he's looked really good in Atlanta. And obviously Trae Young's a very underrated passer, a very good passer. He's been very good at getting Alex Len, even Dwayne Dedmon on the bench going.
Yeah, no, I love what I've seen from Alex Len. Like you said, it's kind of helped establish himself. He's been playing big, especially offensively, catching, passes from Trae Young, Jeremy Lin, finishing inside. I saw a game where he started like 10 points in the first quarter. Obviously, he needs to get better defensively, but there's been some real improvements from Alex Len. On to the West, Dallas Mavericks.
The Dallas Mavericks. I got to be honest, this is one of my teams, even though I think everybody was kind of sipping the Kool-Aid when they said this is going to be a playoff team in the West. They're actually a really fun team to watch.
Beat Golden State.
What?
They beat Golden State last night.
Yeah.
Obviously down Steph Curry, but still a nice win for them.
Yeah. You got to put an asterisk next to any loss the Warriors have without Steph Curry. But for me, a guy who flies under the radar, and I'm so happy I can finally give him some love because he went to Florida University. And as you know, I'm a big Florida Gators fan. Dorian Finney-Smith. He's a wing for them. He's 25. He plays 26 minutes per game. He's averaging just 9 points per game, but he's got splits of 51% from the field, 44% from three, averages around 4.1 rebounds per game. He plays solid defense for them. And in a bigger role, he didn't play a ton last year in minute-wise. But he's just growing as a basketball player. He's 25, and it just looks like he's becoming more of a complete player. And I just love what he gives this team.
Yeah, no, definitely plays with some really nice energy. I've liked what I've seen from him, especially last night. Dwight Powell, I think, is a guy kind of goes under the radar who's been really solid for them, shooting 63% from the field. He just plays with some good energy, too, a little bit of toughness in there. So both some nice young guys for the Mavs. Now on to San Antonio.
For me, it's their new point guard, the one who went undrafted, and that's Forbes. Brian Forbes in 29 minutes per game is shooting 43 and 43 from the field and from three, 12.8 points per game. Not a crazy playmaker. They've been giving that duty still to DeRozan, but I've been really impressed with Forbes. The other night, who did they play? I don't know. He started off the game with a 3 though, and I was just like really impressed that they had, this kid was undrafted. And now he's starting for the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, like what a journey, but he's been really impressive in the absence of DeJounte Murray who got hurt.
Yeah, Forbes has definitely showed some stuff. Davis Bertans is the guy I'm going with. I love three-point shooters off the bench. He understands how to play the game, has some great advanced metrics. So Bertans is a guy. He was another guy I was surprised that didn't get more attention in free agency. He was restricted, but he's a perfect fit for this type of NBA. Houston Rockets.
It's for me, it's got to be the new kid on the block, Gary Harris. Or Gary Clark. Yeah. Gary Harris. Wrong team, way more known. Gary Clark for me is the guy. Obviously, the numbers aren't great, but since Melo's been gone, the energy that he plays with, he had 3 or 4 threes against the Warriors the other night in their win over the Warriors. He's just been very impressive. He plays with good energy. He's a very good 3-and-D guy. Well, not really a 3-point shooter yet, but he's probably going to become that in this offensive system. So Gary Clark for me has been a guy who's impressed.
Yeah, I like Gary Clark. He just has some brilliant energy. He understands the role they want him to play on that team. He does a little bit of the dirty work, and he's been a nice replacement for an Ariza, Bob Mute, like you said. Still needs to improve in the three-point area, but he does have some nice promise for them. Memphis Grizzlies.
Who'd you? Oh, you pick Gary Clark too?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, for Memphis, it's got to be for Memphis. I really didn't know because I haven't watched a ton of Memphis games. I'm not gonna lie to you. I only watched the first game against the Pacers, and the Pacers kind of blew them out, if you recall. But just looking at the box score, a guy who, for me, looks somewhat impressive would have to be Wayne Selden. I know he's been mentioned a lot. I know that Evan Dial is very high on Selden because he's a three-point shooter. A guy who maybe could be on the move. For me, it's been Selden, but I really haven't watched a ton of Memphis Grizzly games.
Yeah, Selden, like you said, Evan did a nice breakout piece on him. I think Garrett Temple's been really impressive. Like he's definitely going from Sacramento. He had good minutes there, but he was obviously on a bad team, so he wasn't catching as much hype. But this year with Memphis, he's doing a great job. He really stepped up. He's efficient, and he's helping them win games. And it's just been a nice little addition for them to kind of help them get into that playoff hunt. New Orleans.
New Orleans. I got to say I'm really disappointed on that how that hot start has already cooled down this much. But for me, a guy who's been rather impressive is Wesley Johnson. Only played in 10 games this year, started in 7 of them, shooting 51% from the field, 48% from three. He's just been he's been impressive to me. A 31-year-old guy. He's bounced around the league. Obviously the Pelicans have been looking for wing help, and Wesley Johnson's been that guy.
Yeah, Wesley Johnson has definitely showed up. I know early in the year he wasn't getting a lot of minutes, and then a couple games in, he started to pick up after some injuries, and then the Pelican fans were kind of hoping you would even get more. Thinking a guy that always is doing well for them is E'Twaun Moore. He's averaging 15 points per game, over 50% from the field, almost 48% from three. Knows his role, gives them some great spacing. Has to play undersized sometimes. I think Moore has been great for them.
Moore is very solid.
Yeah, he's a great piece, and he's another guy that I think could fit in a lot of different teams as well. On to the Lakers. It's kind of hard to say anybody's under the radar with all the coverage they get, but who's kind of had a nice season that doesn't get talked about?
I mean, I feel like everybody gets, like you said, I feel like everybody's gets talked about. I mean, I don't. For me, it's a toss up between JaVale McGee and Josh Hart. Obviously McGee, who's been Shaq in the Fool. Was a big piece of the Warriors team, even though he didn't play a ton of minutes. So, like, he's obviously been impressive. One of the good early stories, 2.7 blocks per game. And then Josh Hart as a rookie off the bench. He just shoots with a lot of confidence, plays both sides of the ball. For me, it's a toss up between them. But like you mentioned, with the Lakers, they get so much coverage. It feels like everybody's on the radar.
Yeah, I went with Josh Hart. The second-year player had the big summer league, and he really showed up. And I think, some of the advanced metrics. LeBron plays his best basketball with Josh Hart on the floor, so that says a lot. He just kind of understands how to play the game, and he kind of has had some nice timely buckets for them as well. On to the other LA team, the Clippers. Who are you rolling with?
Also, gotta admit, very surprised on how tough his Clippers team is. This is a very deep team, but for me, a guy who's impressed, and I guess he's getting more and more on the radar. But it's the rookie, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I didn't expect him to be this big of an impact player early. He was playing 27 minutes per game. He started in 6 games so far. I think he's starting now, right?
Yeah, Avery Bradley was out the last game, so I don't know if he's consistently starting, but I know he was in the mix for starting minutes. And like you said, he showed some nice stuff defensively. That jump shot needs work, but he's definitely had some moments where he's almost looked like an NBA vet out there.
Yeah, that was something I've noticed. Just like his confidence. His confidence is not of a 20-year-old rookie. It's more of a guy who's been in the league for a couple of years. So he's been very impressive.
I went with Montrezl Harrell. He's been disgusting. He's just a monster. Energy, toughness, rebounding. He's just a machine. He's coming off the bench. I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually started, but long as he's getting the minutes. He played the Nets last night, and he pretty much dominated that fourth quarter. He's just a very good player and just has a really good motor. Phoenix Suns, though.
Another one of those teams where you gotta every player, it feels like, is somewhat yeah. I guess a guy who's been impressive though is another rookie for me. It's Mikal Bridges. He's averaging 19.7 minutes per game, shooting 46 and 37 from the field, 7.7 points per game. I think he's going to be a big key wing on this team. Obviously, Josh Jackson's been very unimpressive and struggling. I think Bridges is going to be the guy who kind of pushes him out of Phoenix, or at least out of the rotation farther.
Yeah, it's been something really interesting with Josh Jackson. Obviously, it was always known he was raw. They were hoping he would develop a little bit sooner, but there's still time for him. Bridges has been nice, and I know some Sun fans have asked for more minutes for him. I'm surprised you didn't go with your guy TJ Warren. I feel like he's consistently just putting up buckets, making shots, knows his game, and he does it for Phoenix every year.
I just kind of felt like he's becoming too known, but that's probably just because I follow a lot of Sun guys on Twitter.
Yeah. I think TJ would be a guy would maybe get traded. I would have to take a look at his contract, but he'd be a guy that could kind of give some team instant offense off the bench, a little bit of toughness as well.
He's making
Sacramento Kings.
I think he's making like $12 million a year, if I'm right. I think like around there.
Yeah. Would you happen to know how many years is on that or no? I want to say 2.
I want to say he signed like a 3-year deal. I want to say he's got 2 years left, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think that would kind of scare some teams away. If he was expiring, that would be a really nice piece for teams to add because I'm not sure anybody wants to lock in long term for a wing slash forward that doesn't really shoot threes.
Oh
But
wait, oh no, I'm he's yeah, he's signed until 2021, 2022. And this year he's only making 11 million, then next year 10 million, then 11 million, then 12 million. Like that's a really weird contract. But yeah, he's signed for the next 4 years.
yeah, not a terrible value, but not a guy that you're gonna like trade a first round pick for. But Sacramento Kings.
Man, it feels like I could go with so many guys on this damn team because they've been so impressive. For me though, the guy I'm going with is Amon Shumpert.
Ooh,
I'm
yeah.
really impressed by
Welcome
chapter.
back, Ron.
Yeah, seriously, welcome back. I mean, the shooting numbers from the field aren't great, 40%, but 37% from three. It feels like he's going to be a guy we probably see on the move at some point this year. Plays solid defense still, and it just looks healthy. I guess that's the biggest way to put it. So I've been really impressed with Shumpert early.
Good for him too to get back. And like honestly, Shumpert really started his rookie season with the Knicks. He looked like he was going to be a very good player, like a starter, maybe some all-star potential. Then he tore his ACL, lost some of that pop. He's never really been the same. Had some good moments in Cleveland. Nice to see him in Sacramento kind of finding some nice rhythm and maybe, like you said, move on to another team. I think the Manjabel Litsa has been really good for them. He's giving them some nice scoring, a nice veteran presence, spacing the floor a little bit out there. And he chose the Kings after he kind of pulled out of that Sixers deal. So at least he's making it look like he made the right move.
Definitely.
Golden State Warriors.
Kevin Durant, no. For me, a guy under the radar for them, it would have to be Jonas Jerebko. I think he's been a very good addition to this team in the offseason. 18 minutes per game, 44 and 39 splits, 6.9 points per game. I just really enjoy the way he fits in with this team, the energy he plays with. The other night too, TNT forgot to mute the microphone and he let out a really big F word and it was kind of comical. But Jerebko for me has been very impressive.
Yeah, Jerebko, he's always been that type of energy guy from Boston to Utah. I went with Alfonso McKinney. He has a great story. He ended up getting on the Warriors and getting a tryout because Steph Curry's security guard recommended him. I think it's his cousin, actually. And then, next thing you know, he's on the Warriors. He gives some good energy, some nice toughness. He knows his role, makes shots when needed. Also, Quinn Cook. Quinn Cook going from the G League a few years ago, now being a solid NBA player, filling in for Steph Curry, knocking down a lot of shots. He can give you some instant offense real quick.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Cook was great down the stretch last season. It's carried over into this year.
Yeah, that's a nice find for them. It just seems like the Warriors just do a great job of finding these talented players. Portland Trailblazers.
It's for me. It's what's his name? I didn't scribble down his name. Why didn't I put his name? I just have his shooting splits. Jake Layman, 55%, 46% from three. I just like how he's progressing. 24 years old. For me, he's been one of the bigger role players for them. It just feels like Portland has this system where they got the two guards and Lillard and McCollum who do everything. And then no one really around them has flashy numbers, but their shooting numbers are just very good and they all play hard. They play with defense. And also, I don't know if you know this, Jake Layman's nickname is Sunshine. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, Jake Layman, he's had some really solid starts for them too, knocking down three-point shots, throwing down some dunks. For me, Zach Collins has been impressive. Second-year jump, looks like he's better defensively, took some time to adjust to the NBA, put on some more muscle. He's a guy that could maybe push for more of like starter-type minutes. I don't think they'll bench Nurkic, but I wouldn't be surprised if Collins continues to just get more minutes than him.
For sure. And Nurkic is actually having a career year by his numbers.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's good for them having both bigs kind of work out. Denver Nuggets.
The Denver Nuggets, for me, it's this new kid on the block. He's been average. What?
Monte Morris?
Monte Morris, yes. He started over Jamal Murray the other night. I don't suggest doing that. I don't think he should be starting over Jamal Murray. I think
message, I guess.
Yeah, I think we should kind of figure out who the point guard is, and it's got to be Jamal Murray. So let's just stick with that. But he's been very impressive. He had I think he had a double-double the other night with assists and points. Played in 16 games so far, 23 minutes per game, 45 and 40 splits, 9 points per game. He's been really impressive. And as we just mentioned, he started over top of Jamal Murray just the other night, which I don't think is a good idea, but it just shows how well he's playing out in Denver.
Yeah, and I don't think he started because he's playing better, but I think that Mike Malone was sick of the inconsistent play of Jamal Murray. One game having a a night of 48 and then, not bouncing back the same way the next game. So they're just trying to get more consistency. But Morris has been a great story. OKC.
Also, really impressed with how Paul George has been playing. Not a under the radar guy by any means, but very impressed with how he's been playing. For me, an under the radar guy is Jeremy Grant.
Yep.
I think he's still under the radar. He's playing 30 minutes per game. He's shooting 49 and 35 from splits, 11.6 points per game, 5.3 rebounds. I just love the energy he plays with. I love him being that like small ball four for them. Great length, a really gritty defender. I'm a big fan of how he's progressed since his time in Syracuse.
Yeah, Grant's been another guy. He just seems to always bring the energy, knows his role. 9 and 4, not flashy numbers. He hasn't played as much small ball five this year with Nerlens Noel being there, but that's an area where he played a little bit more last year. Grant's a guy, if he can add that 3-point shot consistently, it'd be a very good season for him. Timberwolves. This was another team that was kind of hard to come up with a guy who's floating under the radar.
I want to say too, though, just before we get off OKC, Nerlens Noel deserves a little bit of love too. Because obviously with the issues he had in Dallas, he's been very good for OKC so far this year, and like 13 minutes per game, but he's averaging like 5 and 5. And I think he's going to get more and more minutes as the season progresses.
Yeah, it's nice to see him kind of bounce back and get his NBA career kind of more solidified and hopefully make himself some money this year. But Timberwolves.
Yeah, and the Timberwolves are tough because somebody named Tom Thibodeau doesn't play anybody outside of his like top 7 guys. Covington played 42 minutes his first game in Minnesota.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, right. Just hey, your knees look kind of fresh. Let me help you there. For me, it's probably got to be the rookie Josh Okogie. 23.4 minutes per game. The shooting splits are bad, 36 and 26. But I think he's going to be a decent wing guard for them. Wing defender for them. I do like his energy, just whether or not his offense can come along. It's kind of tough because I feel like the main guys on this team, obviously, they play a boatload of the minutes. They kind of fly over the radar.
Yeah, Josh Okogie, I probably would have went with if he wasn't. If I didn't irrationally hate him for being part of the Karis LeVert injury. It's not his fault or anything, but he was just there, so I can't show him any love. I'm going to go with Taj Gibson. I think he's been a guy who's just been solid in the NBA for a long time now, and Taj has even improved in 3-point percentage-wise. I think his best bet is probably coming off the bench, but, I've loved what I've seen from Taj for years now. Utah Jazz.
Man, a team that is just underperforming. Did you see, I know this is off topic, did you see that last night Mitchell put up 34 shots and had 0 assists?
Yeah, I saw I didn't see the game, but I saw his quote afterwards and saying how it was terrible. But then, afterwards, Quinn Snyder was saying that, like, we don't want Donovan Mitchell to think it's selfish taking so many shots because we really need him to do that.
Right. So back to the question. Sorry. Alec Burks, for me, is a guy who flies under the radar and is pretty impressive for them. A guard who he's been not healthy this year. He tends to get banged up. He's missed a lot of time over the last several years. But he's shooting 42% from the field, 44% from 3. It just feels like there's always an opportunity for him to explode offensively. So for me, it's Burks.
Yeah, it's nice to see Burks healthy, like you said. He's dealt with injuries a lot early in his career. I think like another guy, and this guy comes from Boston as well, Jay Crowder. He just seems like the system fit a guy that's always bringing toughness and energy. He's not always going to be a elite, knockdown shooter, but you're never going to really question his effort on the floor.
For sure.
All right, that wraps it up for Under the Radar, guys. Anybody you felt like we missed, Kory, that you want to show some love to?
No, I think we gave love to the guys that we should have gave love to, and I think we shouted out the ones that were just on the cusp.
Yeah, and if there's somebody you feel like deserves some extra love, make sure you hit up OTG Basketball at OTG Basketball. But Kory, I'm going to pass it to you for your segment.
We're guessing averages. We're guessing the lines of certain players, unknown players, unnamed players, and you're going to try and figure out who is who.
Great. This sounds exciting, and I'm going to do terrible. So God bless me.
Hey, you did this to me a couple weeks ago, my friend. So it's my turn to get a little payback. We'll start with the Atlantic Division. I just did one player from each division. This division has 2. Wink, wink. The first, almost just said his name. The first player is averaging 14.1 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.2 steals on a split of 61 and 31. Who am I?
Wow, this is actually really tough. I'm assuming he's a starter.
No. Yes, he is. Yes, he's a starter. Yes, he's a starter. Sorry.
So 14-7. You said he's shooting 60% from the field.
Yes.
Oh, this is obviously a big right here.
Correct. I'll give you a hint. Correct.
So, it's very similar. Oh God, this is really tough. 60% from. I know. I mean, let me just go through the bigs in my head. Is it Ennis Cantor? No, he's averaging more rebounds.
And I don't think he's starting. Does he start?
Oh,
No, Mitchell starts for that.
yeah. All right, going through all the centers. It's not Joel Embiid. It's not Mitchell Robinson. Jared Allen? No. Yeah, Jared Allen.
No.
No.
No. No. It's you want to know?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. You just guessed. You were wrong. Pascal Siakam.
Wow. I'm surprised he's shooting 60% from the field.
I was
think
really surprised too. I was really surprised.
the 14-7 aren't very surprising. And what would you say the 3-point percentage was? Low 30s?
Yeah, 31.
31? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Who you got next?
The next guy, also in the Atlantic Division, 12.5 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, 1.9 blocks, shooting 59% from the field. Who am I?
How many blocks again?
1.9.
1.9. Jared Allen?
Yes. This was the one wink.
Yeah. I was like, well, I named Jared Allen. These stats were pretty close to Siakam, so it kind of made sense.
Yeah. I was really surprised to see that he's averaging 8.3 rebounds. That's one of the top guys in the Atlantic, actually.
5 offensive rebounds yesterday. And the night before, I think he had 4 against Dwight. And obviously, he has 1.9 blocks, but he's an elite rim protector. Like, I can't believe he's already this good of a rim protector in his second year. But that's for the Brooklyn Buzz.
Yeah. So now to the Central Division, 24.5 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game, shooting splits of 46.5 and 36.4 from the field. Who am I?
Well, it definitely can't be Giannis because he shoots way under 36% from 3. What was the scoring average again? 24, you said?
24.5, yes.
24.5. This is tough. Blake Griffin?
Bingo. All right. I think that was too easy. If you got it's Blake Griffin. 100% Blake Griffin.
I was trying to think like who in that division can score points and average enough rebounds. And I was like, for a second thinking Sabonis, but I was like, he doesn't average anywhere close to that points per game wise. And then you're looking at, the Cavs, no one on the Cavs. Chicago, no. So I think it was just it had to be like the Pistons. And I went with, I thought about the Bucks, but then Giannis's numbers, the 3-point percentage kind of gave it away.
Yeah. The 3-point percentage. It's funny because as I said it, and you were like, not onto the Kumpa. I was like, yeah, this is kind of like a layup. This one's a little bit harder. I don't know if you'll get this one. This one's kind of hard. So Southeast Division, 10.9 points per game, 5 assists per game. I don't need to say 5.0. 5 assists per game on shooting splits of 45 and 45. Who am I?
So 10 points, 5 assists, 45 and 45. Okay, definitely. I don't think it's anybody on the Hawks.
I'll tell you, it's not.
Okay, it's nobody on Orlando.
Okay.
Oh, it's somebody on Orlando.
I don't. All right.
Oh wait, DJ Augustine, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna do the team thing because I set myself up for that one. I couldn't tell you no.
Well, I knew kind of wasn't anybody in the Hawks. I was like, Trae Young's averaging way more points, and I think his assists might be a little bit higher, and his splits are definitely his 3-point percentage. I think is closer to 30%. Jeremy Lin, nah. Kemba's averaging way too many points. The Goran Dragic, I would assume, had a little bit higher points per game. John Wall and Bradley Beal a little bit higher. So it needed to be like a starting point guard that wasn't very. I don't want to say he's not good, but he's not bad either. He's like that in between.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been really impressed actually that the fact I wasn't realizing that he was shooting that well from the field. Because we talked about their point guard issues obviously going into the year, and obviously they're 8-8 because he's playing pretty well. So now into the Pacific Division, averaging 14.6 points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 1.8 blocks, shooting 68% from the field. Who am I?
JaVale McGee?
No.
Wait, did you say the numbers one more time? 14 and what?
14.6, points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 1.8 blocks per game, and shooting 68% from the field.
All right. I guess I'll go with my second guess, and that'd be Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah. That's why, like, when you shouted them out prior, like when we did, obviously the players, I was like, damn. Good.
I'm surprised Harrell's averaging 1.8 blocks. That's pretty impressive, especially at his size.
Extremely impressive. I was shocked to see that. I'm actually shocked to see that he's shooting 68% from the field. I mean, that's around the rim. He's almost automatic.
Yeah, dude, there was a couple of shots against the Clippers last night where his shot was actually blocked going up, and he still finished it and finished it and won. Like, it was kind of crazy. Do you know how many blocks McGee's averaging? Is he averaging over 2?
Yeah, he's averaging 2.7.
Okay, yeah, all right. I thought that might have been a touch low for him. What do you got next?
Southwest Division. This one, dude, if you get this one, I don't know, you're a god. So he's averaging 13.9 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, 1.8 assists per game on shooting splits of 50% from the field and 50% from 3. Who am I?
50%.
I know.
All right. 50% from 3. Who the? And what were the rebounds for? Like what, 7 or 8? You said
7.8.
7.8. Gosh. Is it Max Kepler on Dallas?
It's not. I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more guess if you want.
Okay. Oh God, this is tough. 50% from 3. And what was the scoring average? 14?
13.9 and 7.8 rebounds, and then 1.8 assists.
Julius Randle?
No. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Rudy Gay.
Wow.
Right?
Honestly, the hardest numbers are the ones that are the in-betweens, like the teens. When you say the teens points per game, because it like opens up from 10 players to like 30. So I am surprised Rudy Gay is shooting that well, though. I mean, the numbers aren't that surprising for him, but the 50% from 3 is ridiculous.
I was really surprised to see the 50-50. And actually, for me, the rebounds per game is kind of shocking. I didn't realize he was that active on the boards.
A little bit more for them, so it kind of makes a little bit of sense. And, Pop's always going to be like team rebounding type of squad.
Right. All right, so now last division, the Northwest Division, averaging 13.4 points per game, 4.3 rebounds. Oh, no, sorry, 4.3 assists, 4.1 rebounds on shooting splits of 45 and 39. Who am I?
This is tough.
You're right. The teen ones, as I read that, like those are just tough because so many guys can average those like middle of the road numbers.
What were the shooting splits one more time?
45 and 39.
45 and 39. Derrick Rose?
No, good. That's a good guess though.
I don't think it's anybody on the Jazz because last time I checked, their 3-point shooters weren't that high. I don't know. I give up on this one.
It was the guy from the Jazz. It's Joe Ingles.
Wow, Jack's gonna hate me, but
not bad though. You went 3 for 4. No, you went 4 for 3. You went
4 or 6. Or you had 7 of them.
7. Yes, you went 4 for 7. Not bad.
Wow, I'm actually really impressed that I was able to get some of that because they were.
The Augustine one has an asterisk next to it because I couldn't say no when you said no or Orlando. So that one gets a little asterisk next to it.
The only one that I think was actually like somewhat easy was the Blake Griffin one, just because of the layout of the division. And then Jared Allen, I like obviously look at net stats like every day, so I should know that.
Yeah, the Blake Griffin one I thought was going to be harder because like the points per game is similar to like Oladipo. But then, like, after I put it down, we were, like I said out loud to you, I was like, that rebounding number, though, is just, like, a huge, like, standout of, like, who am I?
Yeah. But that was fun. And if you ever want us to, mess with any games or you want to throw some ideas at us, definitely hit us up on Twitter at OTG Basketball. Hit Kory up at KWaldHoops. You can hit me at OTG Nick. Make sure you listen to the pod, iTunes, Block Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, Google Play, Dash Radio, and YouTube. Be sure to check out all the pods on OTG, also all the articles. Great content coming on a regular basis. Every single day, there's at least a new article or a new podcast dropping. All right, Kory, as always, a pleasure, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
You too, Nick. Peace out, Knuckleheads.